Welcome to this week's episode of Luther's Large Catechism. It's the second week of April, April 14th in the manual. It's lesson 23, Don't Even Think About It. For the staff at Green Valley Lutheran School, this satisfies your requirements for your continuing education. You have to go to the manual, read page 72 is what the material is, and the questions are on page 73. Look at all of them, please, and respond to one of them that particularly strikes your fancy on the Group Me staff meeting message thread. For the members who are taking this class in lieu of the Sunday Adult Bible Study, go to the Facebook, the church's Facebook. We have a sub-page, Luther's Large Catechism, and you can post questions, your responses, your thoughts, requests for clarification there, and see what I'm posting too. We want to make this kind of an electronic community of sharing of ideas. All right, the 9th and 10th commandment, Luther lumps them together. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's workers, your neighbor's wife, workers, animals, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. And Luther comes right out at the beginning and says, these two commandments were given exclusively to the Jews. And in a way, you're kind of thinking, well, how can that be? These are our commandments. These are our 10 commandments. I think in part Luther was saying this because he's in the back of his mind is like, we fallen, rude Germans, we know we're sinners. It is obvious from the first 8 commandments, the way we treat our bodies with the 6th commandment, the murdering and mayhem that go on with the 5th commandment, the disrespect for authorities, the stealing in the highest circles of our church in Rome. We know we're sinners. But I think part of it too is that he looked back at the Jews of the New Testament, especially the Pharisees. And the Pharisees thought that the commandments only covered what you did, external actions. And that's not the case. And so God, to show the Jews that you are sinners, Paul said it in Romans, I would not have known what it was to covet except the commandment said, thou shalt not covet. And then when I saw that, I discovered all sorts of covetous thoughts within myself. Luther says God gave these last 2 commandments to convince the Jews that they were sinners, that they were in need of God's forgiveness, that they needed the Savior, just like the dirty, rotten Germans. And he goes in at length with the Jewish mindset. But here's the big idea first, before we go any farther. The big idea is God demands a pure heart. He doesn't only demand the right action. He doesn't only demand the right words. Those things are visible. Everybody can see it. You can be sued for libel. You can be taken into court for manslaughter or destruction of property. But who can take you into court for what you're thinking? So don't even think about it. The 9th commandment and 10th commandment say God demands a pure heart. In the New Testament era, there were slaves. And there were slaves during the Old Testament period among God's people as well. And so you owned people. And just as people could hire away somebody's workers, so a slave's position was very precarious. There were laws that the slave owner could not be too brutal or take the life of his slave without reason. But at a blink of an eye, they could dismiss that slave and someone who spent all their life working in a man's household. Now they're on their own, may not even know how to take care of themselves. They were in a very precarious situation. And in Jewish culture, the wife was in a very precarious situation because only the husband could divorce. And divorce was so easy. He could just write on 2 pieces of paper, I write his name, divorce you, write his wife's name, give her 1 slip of paper, give the rabbi the other slip of paper, and boom, it was done, and everybody was happy with it. Luther said it had no more import than if you were hiring somebody or firing somebody. And so there was always a constant danger, let's say for a wife, that if your husband took a fancy for someone else's wife, and he thought about it, and he schemed, and so he went and he enticed her. And you couldn't just take a man's wife, that would be adultery, but he connives with her so that she becomes a terrible person to live with. She doesn't show love or harmony with her husband, and finally, out of disgust with the way she's been treating him, he divorces her. And this man divorces his wife, and so now they're free to marry. And he talks about how King Herod seduced his brother's Philip's wife. The old story was he whispered in her ear, Philip can only make you a princess. I can make you a queen. And when Philip's stay at his brother's house was over, he left for up north, and she stayed, Herodias. The commandment urges that none of us think or plot to obtain what belongs to another man, whether it's his wife or his possessions or his servants. I suppose nowadays we would say if you own a business, your employees, nobody has the right to scheme, to poach your employees. You can't steal them. That's covered by the 7th commandment. And we've treated that enough, Luther says. But here, don't even think about it. Alienating anything that belongs to your neighbor is a sin. And this perhaps is the one weakness in Luther's thought, although he clearly brings out God demands a pure heart, and this command goes beyond what you do. Boy, I have a hard time thinking how alienating somebody is not using your mouth to try to do something wrong, you know. I think coveting goes one step before that. Not even wanting to have what you cannot have. But you think about it, and you think if you can come up with a better definition of coveting. On the back page, on page 73, we've got, I'd like to take a look at Matthew 23 and Luke 20 to show the covetous attitude of the Pharisees, because if you covet, it's going to show elsewhere in your life. Well, that's the lesson introduction for today. Please read the material and respond to the questions. I hope you benefit from this study, and we will see you next week.